Bonjour, je suis David Hornus et vous écoutez Checkpoint, le podcast dédié aux questions de défense, de renseignement et de sécurité. Bonsoir à tous nos auditeurs du podcast Checkpoint, un podcast dédié aux questions de renseignement, de défense et de sécurité. Ce podcast ce soir va être en anglais. It's going to be an English-speaking podcast tonight. I have the great honor and I am very proud to welcome James Reese, former U.S. Lieutenant Colonel, retired, who served 25 years in the U.S. Army and distinguished himself in the 75th Rangers Regiment, and then he has a career which led him to join the very famous Delta Force. Sir, thank you very much for being with us, James. This is David in France. I'm so happy that we can discuss together about your background and career, and thank you so much for your time and availability. How are you, James?
David, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and I hope you've went well, and I hope things are going well over in France right now.
Things are great in France so far. Thank you so much. So, sir, the first question I'd like to ask you regarding your background and expertise would be such as, can you tell us a little bit about your career? How did one day decide to join the army, and especially the Rangers Regiment and the Rangers training process that is going to lead you to join the Special Forces?
I think, David, it's probably the U.S. system to join the military, I think, is different than many other countries. The reason for that is I was in a program in university called ROTC, which is a way to get commissioned as an officer into the Army. And I decided I didn't want to be at the university anymore, and I left. And so I decided to enlist in the 75th Ranger Regiment, which is a daunting task for anybody. But what a lot of people don't know is, and it might be difficult for your foreign listeners to understand, because I'm not sure if you can do this in France, but I was what we would call enlisted, and then I became a sergeant and a staff sergeant before I became an officer.
Okay, excellent. So thank you very much for this precision. Yes, we can do that in France also. You can enlist in the army, and then you can become a staff sergeant, master sergeant. We would say a NCO, and then by different way you can join a way to become an officer. Okay, excellent.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what I did, and then the Rangers asked me if I would consider going back to school, finishing my degree, and then coming back as an officer. And I accepted that, and so that was I spent a few years in the 1st Range Battalion, which just had its 50th year anniversary last week. And then I left the Army, finished college, and came back to the Rangers as a lieutenant.
Wow, impressive, and thank you for telling us this beginning of a wonderful career. Okay, my next question would be regarding this very impressive career. What is the specific mindset that one shall have to go through the whole integration and training process and succeed? Because as far as I understood and what I saw on different videos on the net, the training process to get inside the Rangers and be integrated is quite tough.
Well, David, the one process the Army likes to discuss and let people know is that all Rangers and actually all special operators in the U.S. Army are 3-time volunteers. So they volunteer to come to the Army. They volunteer to go to airborne or paratrooper school, jump out of airplanes.
Mhm.
And then 3, they volunteer to join the Rangers and go to, and join that organization. So first, it's volunteerism. I think the second value that I've watched for 30 some years, both active and now retired, as I even look at the new Rangers today, it's a don't quit attitude.
Mhm.
And there are times that you are laying in the mud, crawling in the mud, the rain, the cold, and there's something inside of you that says, keep going, keep going.
Keep
And there's a
going.
lot of there's many people out there who don't have that value. And so that's what I think that I've watched and I believe I had to get me through the Rangers.
Okay, so first you have to be 3 times a volunteer, which could be a sense of commitment, and then what I heard is don't quit attitude, never quit. Thank you for
Correct.
this motto, very strong motto. Okay, excellent. Then you became, after different experiences and adventure and combat engagement, you became a squadron troop commander at the first Special Forces Operational Detachment, worldwide known as Delta Force. Could you tell us a bit about the specific purpose of and expertise of such a famous elite group? What is the purpose of such a group? What is the specificity and specific action this type of unit is conducting, please, sir?
Yeah. So when Delta was formed, it had a specific role to conduct hostage rescue. And, you can go back and read the history. Delta was really formed to rescue the American hostages that were being held in Tehran in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
in the early 1980. And so that's what it was formed for. And the men that formed that organization had unbelievable guile, guts, just unbelievable. That small group that formed. What I see, and from my perspective, after several years there and continuing, my relationships with operators that are there, Delta adjusts to what the United States National Command Authority needs it to do. So one day we could be hostage rescue.
Mm-hmm.
The next day we could be doing high value targets in the Balkans.
Mm-hmm.
And the next moment we might be doing capture kill raids for high value targets in Iraq, Afghanistan, around the world. And there are adjustments that are made to each of those mission sets. But the reason Delta can do that is because of their recruiting, assessment, and selection, and the intelligence of those operators and how they're able to integrate and work those missions, which the National Command Authority asks us to do.
Well, okay, what I understood is that such a group, a Delta Force group, is at the end of the highest rank of political and military leaders.
That's correct.
Okay. So during your career, you've been deployed both in Afghanistan and then in Iraq. Could you tell us about the men you served with and what challenges you faced in these two different type of conflict and crisis?
Well, the men that I served with are men that I served with prior, and in other conflicts or issues that we're involved with. Um, the thing I took away with the men that I commanded or led or worked with, whatever I was doing for the unit, was one, I learned so much, because Delta is predominantly a non-commissioned officer organization, and senior non-commissioned, sergeant majors, master sergeants. That's what the predominance of the unit is the organization is built around, are those sergeants. And I know sergeant majors in Delta that easily could have been 4-star generals, and some of the best 4-star generals, because their creativity, their intelligence level, their ability to adapt, to change, and I personally think their maturity and just, again, kind of a mission attitude of getting the mission complete, whatever it took. So, I mean, what I took from the men was a learning process for years, and it's things that I took after I retired into my business world. Is a lot of the things I learned from my operators.
What attributes to the operator you served with? Thank you for them. Then you've been deployed in Iraq, and in this period of crisis in Iraq, or of war in Iraq, you've been wounded in action and then decorated with Purple Heart decoration. Could you explain us the circumstance of your of this wound, and how did you then at the time manage to recover and to be able to recover your whole capabilities to join back the unit?
Well, keep this in mind. When you get the Purple Heart, that means that you were at the wrong place at the wrong time. All right. So nobody wants to earn a Purple Heart. It is not an award that you want to earn. Not one I ever wanted to earn, I'll tell you that much. The bottom line was myself and another operator officer. We were driving down Lake Rod Irish in Baghdad, which was considered the most dangerous road in the world. And it was in the evening time, and we got ambushed by insurgents on the road. And again, the training that we receive in Delta and how we learn to deal with those type of issues of, anxiety, fear, anticipation, because everyone gets them. There's no one that says, "Oh, this doesn't scare me." When those bullets started hitting our car, it was scary. But you've learned how to respond to that fear and how to get off the X and react and drive myself and my compadre off the kill zone to safety. And that's really all it was. It was just, I was doing my job, and I did what I was taught to do.
Right. Thank you for this return of such an experience that, as I understand, no one should live, and that nobody wants to earn this type of a reward. Thank you for this testimony. Okay, then after 25 years in the military, you decided to take a retirement, and then you created a private security company. Can we use the word of private military company, which is a word which is often used in France, or do you prefer private security company?
It doesn't matter either way.
Oh, yeah, okay. So whatever the name we are using, you create a private security company using former military, and the company name was Tiger Swan. Can you explain us the signification of this word because I know it, but it's important that from you, our people who are listening to us, understand how you became to choose such a name with which signification behind the name.
Tiger Swan was a combination of a geographical area in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, in an area where I'm from, where I'm near to be from. And when I saw the name of the two geographical areas, the Swan River and the former gold mining town of Tiger, Colorado, it just kind of sat in my head for several years until I retired. And what it just represents within the yin and the yang is the strength and the peacefulness of the swan and the strength of the tiger. And that's why we named it that.
Excellent. Thank you. It's impressive to get the explanation of the name of your company by you, the founder of the company, Tiger Swan himself. Thank you so much, sir. I have one question regarding the mindset. Since the beginning of this discussion, we spoke about the mindset for being a volunteer 3 times, for joining the Ranger, and be able to fulfill the selection process until becoming a Delta Force operator. What is, I read it, so I know, but what is, or what was the mindset you implement in Tiger Swan? Because it's also a kind of mindset you set up in your company.
Well, I think where people don't do as well in the commercial space coming out of the military is when they run their organizations like the military. And, even though we had former military, former law enforcement, the backbone of the company had lots of civilians who had never spent time in the military. So I thought the most important, along with my partner, who started the company with me, we believed that the most important aspect was that we wanted to ensure that we ran what we called an intent-based organization. And when I say intent, that means that as leaders, we gave subordinate leaders and project managers and whoever, we gave them the intent that we believed needed to be accomplished on this job or task. And we provided some left and right limits. And we said, okay, here's the end state we want to get to. And then we said, go, accomplish, do it on your own. You do not have to come back and ask for permission all the time. And that's the intent. And what we found that even with some employees that had been former military, that was a strange concept to them. Now, in Delta and the Rangers, it's a very open concept of running an intent-based operation. But as people started to understand that we wanted them to use their minds and have them research and talk to others, I believe and I hope that people got to enjoy, enjoy working in that type of environment.
Mm-hmm. What I read was that in your company, the motto which represents the mindset you just explained us was strive to be a good listener, an active listener, which is pretty much important to be able to listen to other people. But the sentence I like most much is this one: if in charge, take charge. When a follower, be a loyal follower. I love this concept. you create a great company, and being able to listen to your compadre and employee and leave them enough latitude to conduct the mission is a great intention. Thank you so much for this precision. Then I wrote something that surprised me a little bit for a 25 retired veteran from the Delta Force. You wrote, I read this somewhere, you wrote that it's more difficult on the business side. Would you tell us a little bit more about how could the business side be more difficult for someone like you, sir?
Well, David, I think, when you're in whether you're in special forces in France or the US, Australia, wherever, you are taken care of well by your military, your government, good equipment. There's just lots of things that are provided to you in special forces that even those in the conventional military do not get. Okay? And, you never have to worry about money or budgets or those things. And I think, one of the most important aspects in the business world is revenue. And what people don't understand is if you're not making revenue, you cannot sustain your company. And in the government, like right here in the US, last couple months, we've had these, problems where if Congress didn't pass a certain bill, then the government would have to shut down. Well, okay, but that really doesn't affect the military. And when, there have been discussions about we're going to cut budgets here, we're going to cut budgets there, it doesn't really affect the special forces at the operator level, So in the business world, when you have to make payroll for all your people, and you and your partner look at each other and say, well, we're not getting paid this month because we didn't make enough, but we don't ever want to not pay our people. And one of the things I know myself and my former partner are proud of is in the years that when we ran the company, and it's still going today with other leadership, and they're still doing great, I understand. But the one thing I'm very proud of with my partner and I is we never had to lay anybody off, even during a crisis. And, at one time, the U.S. government actually shut down for a month or two, and they could not pay their government contractors. And Tiger Swan, as a disabled veteran small business, actually floated the U.S. government over $3 million for a couple months until we could get paid by the government. So we're very proud of that, but it takes a lot, and it takes a lot more than coming into work every morning and having all your gear ready and guns and bullets and everything you need to go out and have fun. And sometimes running a business isn't fun.
Yes, I agree with you, and I know what it is about. I've been a business owner also since 20 years, and what I hear sounds familiar to me.
Sure.
Sometimes the business owner must do what he has to do to pay the payroll, but he doesn't get paid himself. He has to wait because he's the boss, he's in charge, he's the leader, he's responsible. So you pay your guy, and then you'll see for yourself the next day, or the day after, or the week after. Excellent, thank you, sir. Regarding the world we're living regarding the world we are living in, actually, we are facing a huge crisis in Europe, the Russian-Ukraine crisis. Would you tell us what is your analysis from the US, from your expertise and experience in the military and especially the Delta Force? What can we say about what's going on in Europe?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for the U.S. military right now. I mean, what you see on television is what I see also. But what I do know is that as the United States, as the European nations of NATO, I think it will be a catastrophe if we do not continue to support the Ukrainian government with weapons and funds. We've got to find a way.
Okay.
And I know that I would not want to be fighting a battle or being a leader and having to check every couple of days if, those, artillery rounds or whatever are going to make it in from our partners in Europe and the U.S. and abroad. So I think the Ukrainians are in a precarious position, but I also know several of them because I've been there, and boy, they are unbelievable the way they're fighting and how they sustain themselves. So my hat goes off to them. They deserve a lot of credit.
Okay, excellent. They deserve a lot of credit. May we speak about this so sad and so violent situation since October 7th in Israel, and regarding the fates of the remaining 130, if I am right, hostages in Gaza. You've been the Delta Force commanding officer. You've been involved in crisis, in war, in hostages situation and hostage rescue process. What is there anything that can be done in such a situation in Gaza with the hostages?
Well, David, I'm going to speculate, being, if I'm the one holding the hostages, I don't have them all in one place. I have them separated all throughout Gaza, because that makes it more difficult for forces to try to rescue them. But at the same time, I think when I look at it, and I see this in the Ukraine-Russian conflict, in what is going on in Sudan right now, I really feel for the people, the basic people on both sides, and unfortunately, I call it the 1%, the 1% of the leadership of these governments who can't sit down and talk, come to some type of, the egos and everything else that is out there, just affects, the people. And we've got to be better, and we've got to find other ways to not allow these people to suffer so much. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah, thank you for these sentences and these feelings. People, basic people from both sides are suffering and dying, and it's a drama. Yeah, and we must be better for the people and try to do our best to put everybody back on the table. You mentioned Sudan. That's right. We don't speak much about Sudan, but something huge is also going on in this country, and we can speak about Haiti. Haiti is next to you. We've been here both during some of our corporate security duty, and what is happening in Haiti is I don't find the English word to say what's going on in Haiti to describe the situation. Turmoil. Yeah, so it's a real turmoil. I was there a year ago on a KNR case, and the situation was already at that time quite critical. But this is such a turmoil. I don't know what is going to be the next step for them. Okay, James, thank you very much. I've got two small last questions for you, and then I will release you. And thank you again for being available for us to discuss your tremendous career and expertise. So, may I ask you? You've been a 25 years special forces operator as a senior officer. Then you've been a successful business owner involved in private and military security services. What is next for you? Now, what is next for people like you, people like us a little bit? I mean, what is the daily routine for a former Delta Force senior officer?
Well, my number one priority is my family and my children. That's my number one priority. They missed lots of years with me, and so even as they're older, I still want to make them a priority. So that's my number one piece. Number two, there's still lots of things I can do, but at the same time, I'm not out rushing. People know where I am. They know how to get a hold of me, and I'd much rather sit back and read, and I do touch base once in a while with some close friends of mine from both the unit and the Rangers, but there's not a lot of interaction, and really just finding some peace and inside my soul, and trying to stay in a good place.
Excellent. Sir, I hear something very strong to me because I am a family man and I'd like to pay tribute. Is that correct to say that to our wives, respective wives and kids? Because in France, we used to say, nearby every great man, there is two times great woman and family. And that's right that sometimes they missed us because we were involved and engaged in our business or duty. And it's important to let them know that they are so important to us because that's our base, and nothing would be done without a strong wife and strong family at home when you are deployed abroad. So that was great that you mentioned that your first priority is family and children. I agree 100% with you. My last question, sir, would be: would you have an advice for young at heart people who'd like to be inspired by your career and commitment? What would you tell 18 years old guy, French or Sudanese or Haitian or US? What could be the word we can let them know?
So the first thing I would say is do what you want to do. Okay, do what you want to do. If you want to become or join the special forces, wherever you are, whatever country you're in, then research it, prepare for what you have to do, and get your mind and body set to go through that process. One thing that I wish, if I could make some changes to my career, is that there are if you decide to stay in the military, and as you grow up in the ranks, there's lots of opportunities to grow. And I think one thing that soldiers who take the time to learn how to become diplomats also, they become a force projector on the battlefield that a lot of soldiers don't have. And I saw a former Delta officer who served with me, and we went to combat together. And then I believe he commanded a battalion in the 5th Special Forces Group. And when he retired, he started working for the Defense Intelligence Agency, and then I believe he went and worked for the State Department, and then he worked his way all the way up to the National Security Council and was involved in the Abraham Accords. And I mean, when I saw that and read that, I was so proud of him, but two, I was like, wow, what a great pivot and adjustment that he made as a combat soldier. But he uses intelligence and he uses education to continue to use that combat sense and that combat experience. But now he became himself a diplomat, and I think a person like that is a great asset for any country.
Thank you, sir, for all those inputs who are so important and which give so inspiration regarding what is a life and what is a career, and how you can conduct it, and how sometimes you need to pivot and use your flexibility, your intelligence to continue to grow. James, it has been such a pleasure. I know it's been a while since we haven't been able to share a beer together. Shall I be able to fly to the US? Be sure I will do my best to let you know and drive or fly nearby you. And please, sir, shall you be able to fly to France? Let me know that we can share a glass of wine. Once again,
Sure.
thank you so much. It has been
Thank you, David.
a great honor to
Thank
speak
you.
to you and to be able to get all those input regarding your magnificent career and expertise. And as you used to say in the US, thank you, sir, for your service. Hope to see you soon.
And thank you, David, for your service and what you're doing in France. And hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye.